Welcome back. I'm playing Warhammer 40,000 Battlesector, and we'll get started on our next multiplayer matchup. This is going to be the Combat Zone. It's an Exterminatus setup, 2,000 points. I'm going to be playing as the Necrons, and our opponent's going to be playing as the Tyranids. It has an 80-point target with an 8-turn limit, and we'll see what we can do here. It's another one of these oblong, rectangular maps. It seems like that's very popular for players to use here. It's actually quite a bit longer than I originally thought it was, but I have the Overlord. I'm going with Immortals with the Tesla Carbines, assuming he's going to do a Swarm Tactics build. I have one Gauss Blaster. I have the Locust Heavy Destroyers to be able to do anti-vehicle damage. Likewise, I have the Annihilation Barges because they can do really good armor penetration to take out any sort of hero units, and also be able to alternate with the Living Lightning attacks to be able to take out swarms of Necron units as they come here. The difficulty is going to be trying to decide how I want to move our forces around, because what we don't want is to have our forces split up and then him being able to focus down one force at a time and then running around to the other side and getting the kill. Now I am able to maximize our movement here with our Overlord, so I'm trying to move him around in a way so we can close the distance, because what I want to ideally do is get as far down the map as I can, and then as the Tyranids close the distance to be able to attack me, to be able to do like a forced retreat. That way I can hopefully get a bunch of shots into his swarm tactic units that may be all grouped together for them to get attacks, and then also be able to maximize the positioning of our Praetorians there. Now I feel like I should have these Locust Heavy Destroyers maybe towards the right side, but I'm going to keep them kind of in the center here because I'm not quite sure how he's going to have his forces going yet. And I'll bring you over to here because this should allow you to then get the movement for these guys. Yep, there you go. I'll move you up. And we're still so far behind, or so far to move. I think we can just move our guys here and not worry about Overwatch, because I mean this map is way bigger than I originally thought it was when I looked at the dimensions. So this may even be a map that you want to do a 10-turn limit on instead of the 8 turns, because I think it's going to take us 3-4 turns just before we can even engage each other. Alright, so we'll move the Overlord up. Again, trying to get our movement going. I want to be able to summon some more units here. Now ideally you'd want to have a better idea of how long you want to move, because now I've moved this Annihilation Barge out and I've lost movement points because I didn't maximize their movement. Because that's the one downside, one of the downsides I should say, to the Necrons, is they definitely have some slow movements. And that's because the Overlord does give you the option to increase your movement speed. Now, one thing I didn't realize when I was first playing this match is you would think these would be obstacles, because they look like obstacles in cover, right? But as you could see with my guys, they can literally walk through those obstacles, so they're just for show. They don't actually show up here. And it's like, okay, we still have not engaged our opponent, and it's turn 4, so it's now 50% of the way through the turn limit, and we're just about to touch tips here. It's like we'll move him over here so you can now move up a little bit more. Set these guys up here. And we'll keep these guys in the center. And then I'll move him over here, so hopefully he can then buff up the movement to the Locust Heavy Destroyers, let them catch up. Now, one thing I wasn't sure about was on the center, is if I was going to be able to, you know, post these guys up on the center and shoot down into guys. But I think with the cover system and everything else, that's just not going to be feasible, so I'm going to keep these guys as two separate forces just along the side. Now, I might regret having these two Locust Destroyers together here and not on the other side, because if he has a bunch of heavies on the other side, then all of a sudden these guys are going to have trouble killing and taking care of those guys. So it all depends on what we see. And then originally I was hoping to keep them up on the side here and be able to shoot and make them have to come all the way down and around to be able to engage my guys. But now that I know this isn't real cover and I can literally just walk through it, it's like, well, that kind of defeats the purpose of me having these guys on the sides then. So this is almost like theater here with those purely cosmetic barriers. So do be aware of that if you're planning on trying to use that for any of your planning here. So the gargoyle's coming up, and he must have a lot of guys there because he seems to be having pretty good evasion there. So we'll bring these guys up here. He pulled them back, I guess. So we'll move our guys up to try to get more movement here. Yeah, see, he pulled them back. So that must be about where his battle lines are, I would imagine. So we'll run these guys up. I kind of hate to waste their attacks shooting into gargoyles for sure. But we'll set the Immortals up to be able to set up a firing line here. Now, the thing to know about the Tyranids versus Necron matchups is the gargoyles' blinding poison does not work against machinery, non-organic, I guess I should call it, non-organic units. So you cannot blind and decrease evasion and do poison damage and all that stuff to the Necron units. So just be aware of that, because I was unaware of that when I first played, and so I went against some Tyranids and I thought, oh yeah, this will be good. I will or I was playing as Tyranids going against Necrons. I'm like, oh, this will be great. I'll just start spamming a bunch of poison attacks here. And then I can really weaken their units as to slow down their healing and hopefully guarantee some kills and also make it easier for my units to kill the enemy. But that does not work out. So now I make a pretty catastrophic move here, and perhaps the more experienced players of you against Tyranids may have an idea of what's about to happen to me this following turn. But I did not. I was thinking there was going to be an obstacle in the center there, and I left that area open. So we'll see what ends up happening here, but it was definitely a pretty painful lesson to learn. And it's like, well, we'll keep these guys, since I have my Locust Heavy Destroyers over here, it's like we'll keep the Overlord on this way so he can be buffing up the movement. And my thought was, well, technically the Locust Heavy Destroyers are hover units, so I should be able to run them up and try to cross to the other side easier, was my thought process here. Doesn't really work out in my favor, but that was what I was thinking. And I'm like, well, we'll have the Praetorians here because they have the increased movement as well. And then I can use them to jump to the other side as well if he doesn't throw guys down to start charging into me. And so he's going to lock down the center here with his Hormagaunts. He's running the Venomthropes down with their Spore Cloud to be able to get the evasion. So this is going to allow him to easily soak up all this Overwatch. You can see the swarm starting to come down here with the warriors. And I'm getting excited because I'm like, oh yeah, look at them get all these guys stuck together. This is going to be great. He's shoots these guys, but I think that's because he didn't realize quite how good of a move he was about to have. And here comes freaking John Cena. You know, he runs up here, burrows right into the center, and now can literally Bioshock everybody. Oh, God. So that effectively took out a 30% of my health. And now these guys are all weak, so now he's got these Tyranid warriors back here that are easily able to get model kills. And so he's able to just sit back here and snipe my Praetorians. He's got the Hive Tyrant, which is also trying to snipe down my Immortals here. He's bringing the Gargoyles down. I think he was hoping to do some poison things, but he realized that that wasn't happening. And so he's able to just keep weakening them, get some easy momentum, and then guarantee kills with those warriors. So then he's able to totally just mop up these guys here. So this was like a catastrophic situation, because not only does it do a lot of damage to me, but it also is now effectively going to lock my guys down into melee. So this was pretty terrible for me. Now, he wanted to use the Bioshock ability again there. He should have just meleeed my guys, because he would have killed several of the models. But I think he was just excited, seeing like, oh yeah, I've totally screwed this Necron player here.
Activity detected out of range. Activity detected out of range.
So we're just kind of moving our guys now, trying to guarantee that I can kill these Venom Thropes so he doesn't start debuffing all of my units to get those bonus damage. So it's like, even though he's got the Spore Cloud here, I want to guarantee that I can get some kills. And then hopefully just be able to mop up the rest of his swarm tactics here, but I'm pretty committed. But I was like, shit, I was really thinking they're going to do more damage than this. Even that 60% chance to hit, I was thinking, no, this is gonna go a lot better. So it's like, well, I guess we're gonna be committed to using our Annihilation Barge here. So he's taken out 2% of our forces here. We haven't killed any of his yet. But now, or sorry, he hasn't killed any of our guys yet, but we've taken out now a total of 6% of his forces. That's how I should have said that. Because the nice thing is even with all those damage that he was doing over here on the right side of the map, he wasn't able to cinch the kill because my guys keep resurrecting. So he was spacing a lot of damage out, which is good for him because he's going to weaken them up and make it easy to kill on the following turns, but it also allows us to get some potential counterattacks here. So it's like I really got to take out those guys to allow my Immortals to start shooting into these swarm tactics to really take advantage of their Living Lightning. So ideally I'd like to run those guys over here to get the rear attack, because you can see that arrow here shows that this is truly the rear, but he's locked down because of the zone of control over here, so I cannot actually pull him back, and I haven't done enough damage here to be able to break his zone of control yet. So it's like, well, I guess we're gonna all be meleeing this guy down because I really need to drop him. But he's got pretty good armor, so these guys are gonna have some trouble getting there. He still has the zone of control, unfortunately. So I'm like, damn. I have an 85% chance to hit, which is not terrible, but I would really like to use these guys to kill the swarm tactics so I can prevent them from being able to mop up my units. So it's like, we'll just keep attacking here and see if we can get the kills. He still has zone of control, and now he's fully surrounded by other units, so I can't jump anybody else in there. So it's like it doesn't look like he's going to be able to use zone of control because everything's blocked up here. So we run the annihilation barge away, and then at 85% chance to hit, that should allow us to get the kill, which it does. And so then it's like, well, let's just try to guarantee some hits on the Termagon here, and then hopefully we'll get the living lightning to kill the other units around him. And we do. So now the venom thropes are down. We damage the gargoyles, which is kind of nice. And now by freeing up those other units, these guys should be able to do some damage. So it's like, let's do the Tesla cannons here. And they're able to one-shot one of those squads as long as they can get at least a 70% accuracy. And then the living lightning will jump to the surrounding units, so it's definitely pretty powerful. That Gauss blaster has a little more range, so that'll allow us to start shooting down the Termagon here. And that does good damage. And then we still have this guy here. So it's like, well, I feel like we gotta just pull these guys back to do as much damage as we can. But I'm definitely regretting not having the Locust Heavy Destroyers over here, because they would have made this way easier for us. It's like, I think I just need to keep focusing these guys down as much as I can. Because I don't really care about the Praetorians, but I really do want the Immortals to survive so they can chew through all these weak tier units, because the Praetorians are not going to be able to do that very easily. And it's like, well, I think we've done enough to break his zone of control, so we'll pull you back here. But unfortunately, I did not see that he still had the zone of control there, so I just nuked these guys. And it's like, well, do I start running these guys over here? Do I not? I think I probably want to, because now I see he's got all these forces here. So it looks like he wants to do a big push on the right side of the screen, so it's like, let's start pulling these guys back to try to protect our forces. And it's like I could jump these guys over and smack this guy, but then for sure he's gonna die, and then he's got all that Overwatch over there too, so it's like I'm not sure where the Overwatch is. So I think it makes more sense just to keep him back here, and then perhaps if he overextends one of his leader units, I can then get some guaranteed rear attacks. So it's like, let's just pull you back. We'll set you up with some Overwatch. Same here. We know he's got those Hormagons coming for me. And I'm just not sure if that force here is going to break off to the left side on me, or if he's going to be sending everybody to the right side, so I'm just can't quite make up my mind what I want to do with the Overlord here. And then the other thing is, we know he's got the Hive Tyrant, and I don't want him to be able to run down here and really melee my units down, because really with all of his forces here, he should be able to get that Hive Tyrant into melee range, and it would kill pretty much all of my units. So it's like, we'll pull the Praetorian down here to try to keep him alive. Now, I had forgotten that he used the Bioshock attack here, because in my mind I'm like, oh, it doesn't make any sense that he would have done that against the 2 units. So I was like, shit, now that I jumped that guy out, he should be able to Bioshock potentially 5 of my units, which are already critically injured. So I was trying to figure out how I wanted to do this. And so I end up moving these Praetorians up, thinking, well, maybe he'll have to just force his way through the zone of control then, if he doesn't kill him with everybody else here, because he's already used his burrow ability. So I end up moving the Praetorians up here. So if you're wondering, like, that was a weird ass thing to do, it's because I forgot what attack he had already utilized, because it had been a couple of days since I did this match, so. But it's like we've taken out 19% of his forces. He's yet to kill one of ours, so things are working out pretty much in our favor, but it's a little tenuous once he closes the distance here. Especially with him having been able to successfully Bioshock 30% of our forces here, because those Tyranid warriors are going to continue to keep getting easy model kills, which are still 2 attacks. So he's stacking up his bonus damages here. Using the warriors to kill these Praetorians. And ends up moving these guys for some reason, allowing me to get a bunch of zone of control attacks, so that was nice. And it also overwhelmed them, so then they're now blocking pathways here, so he's forced to move these guys around somewhat awkwardly so he can run in here. But as you can see, he's like fixated on trying to kill my immortals, which I understand because they're so powerful, but again, he's allowing me to do a bunch of easy damage to his units that really should not be happening here. Because really my Praetorians are the tankiest units I have right now. So he really should be using those Termagants to guarantee kills here, and then using all the warriors and things to be able to guarantee kills on my immortals. So he has kind of a poor unit selection here in terms of target selection, I should say. And so he's deciding since he's collapsing my right side, he's like, I'm just gonna keep throwing guys down here and locking this down and abandoning the left side, which is unfortunate for me because I have so many forces on the left side. It's making it hard for me to close the distance. And he's stacking up his momentum gains here, so now ideally the other thing he should have done is now he's been able to surge his units, so he should be using some of those bonus attacks to kill my guys instead of letting me restack my abilities for the resurrection here. But as you can see, the Termagant itself is almost able to one-shot the immortals down, especially in their weakened state. And then he made some comment about not understanding that the center of the map wasn't traversable or something, and I didn't know what that meant. So but it's like you can see how easily I can clear those guys out now that I've got the Locust Heavy Destroyers over here. And unfortunately that gave him an option to now spread these guys around, so it's like I really need to take out this Prime, and I need to take out this, I pretty much need to take out everything, because he is now going to be able to do shit tons of damage to me. And he used the ability to take away my momentum, and usually that doesn't make a lot of sense, but against a faction like the Necrons it actually does, because the more momentum my units get, the more healing my units can do, because it's a percentage based off of the momentum. So then I'm just trying to figure out, like, do I just keep pushing these guys up and try to come around, or do I pull back? And ultimately I decided, well, he's got some straggler units here, so I feel like I should just be moving these guys up, because I can get at least a couple of points for kills here. And if he splits up his other forces to try to kill my units, then that will at least give me a little breathing room on the other side, because it's still not clear to me how he wants to split up his forces. Oh, I guess at 65%, these guys can do squad wipes. I thought it had to be at least 70. Now that was not worth it. I should not have done that. I should have just kept him on Overwatch. So that's what I'm effectively going to do with those guys here. And I've got the Annihilation Barge. It's like I could get him up here, but then the Hive Tyrant is going to be able to fly up there and get him, and I don't want him to get rear attacks on me. So I'm like, do I move him up? Do I keep him over here? And it's like, I guess I'm kind of committed to these forces over here, so I might as well just keep these guys over and keep shooting. But I will bring the Overlord over this way to try to start buffing the movement. And it's like, I really got to take out this Prime, because if the Prime is able to start getting a bunch of attacks onto my units, then he's going to be able to just slaughter squads worth of units here, because he has a bunch of splash damage, and he's for sure going to be able to trigger the natural killer, which is going to do even more damage to me. So things are definitely not looking great for me. So it's like, I'd like to drop him as much as possible, and ideally I'd like to put these guys at an angle so he can't do the charge attacks, because I want to be able to make him waste as many of those action points as possible.
The sound of our guns will herald their death.
It's like, since you only got 2 models, we'll try to use you to get the kill here.
Firing on target.
Or at least I should have. I was thinking they were going to do more damage, I guess. And it's like, we'll shoot into the gargoyles, hoping that we can kill some other units with the living lightning here. But he didn't jump to the other guys. He got the kill too quickly. So I'm like, damn. Alright, well, I've got all these guys over here. He's down. We'll run you over here. And unfortunately he had the Overwatch set up, so that allowed him to get an easy kill there, because my Resurrection hadn't regenerated. And I was thinking, oh, I'll get a higher chance to hit if I moved here, but it's just 65% no matter what, because of all the evasion and buffs that he's getting, so that was unfortunate. And so I bring this guy over here, and it's like, well, can you get a kill? And you get 1 unit dead. So it's like, let's just keep pulling you back, because now I'm worried, like, shit, he's going to be able to kill a lot of my units here, and it's going to be a closer match than I'm thinking it's going to be. So we'll pull you back to guarantee that you survive. Now this guy's still alive. So I'm like, do I use you to jump down? Do I not? It's like, let's just start summoning some scarabs, because that should also allow me to hopefully be able to block his charge attacks and make him waste some attacks. So it's like, we'll drop the scarabs here to clear out these Hormagaunts, which goes pretty well. And then my hope was, well, I'm going to kill that other one, but it's still bugging out with the movement here. So it's like, we'll move you guys over here in front of the Prime. So either he's going to waste some attacks killing him with his weaker units here, or he'll attack with the Prime, and that will allow us to stop him from being able to charge. And I thought, well, if I bring you over here, I can maybe get some shots into these gargoyles too, so we get some kills. So it's like, alright, that worked out fairly decently.
Immortals awaiting command. Artillery. There are some set.
And it's like, well, do I bring the scarabs over here to block the charge attack? But I thought, oh, let's try to lock down the gargoyles, I guess, and maybe that'll annoy him enough that he'll waste some attacks over here too, instead of focusing down on my more powerful units, because units you spawn in don't count towards the total. So they're like, they can harass the units, and they don't count towards the total, so you'll want to make sure that they die first. and the other player ended up conceding. Now, that actually surprised me because I think this would have been a closer match than what he thought. I think he was getting frustrated because I started kiting him. But if he would have charged in with his Hive Tyrant, that would have guaranteed that he killed the Immortals or the Triarchs, or he could even cross the distance and killed the Locust Heavy Destroyers. The Tyranid Prime would have been able to get into melee range, and then that would have allowed him also to do some squad wipes. And then he would have keep moving up with his swarm units to kill the Scarabs, and then maybe even stack up a little bit of attacks to maybe kill the unit of 2 Immortals. And then he still had all of his warriors still alive, which could do damage to pretty much everything. Now, I still think I would have won this match in the long run, but if he would have kept pushing all of his guys along the right side here, you know, about third of my force selection is way back in this corner and is having difficulty reaching him. So he could have, if I could have moved up here and started getting some kills, it would have been a much closer match because my Necrons move so slowly that it would have been hard for me to get in to get that damage done, and he would keep charging forward and getting kills on my units. Now the Annihilation Barges and stuff would have been a big pain in the ass for him to deal with, and then the Locust Heavy Destroyers would be focusing down the hero units for him unless he was able to focus fire those guys down instead. But by using his swarm tactics, he could have taken out a lot of those overwatches, and he could have done some good damage. Again, I'm pretty sure I would have won this matchup, but I thought it was a little premature for him to have ended up quitting the match, because I think he doesn't realize how powerful the Hive Tyrant is in melee range, and once he's taking out my Praetorians here, everybody else is ranged, so they don't have any sort of zone of control. So it allows him to all of a sudden get all these free kills, and then he's already stacking up significant amount of momentum with his shrieking that he's doing with the Hive Tyrant here. And so, like I said, I think he, especially with that blessing he got with being able to use the Bioshock on 5 of more, because he had 3, 4, 5 or 6 of my units, that was a huge mistake on my part, and that really should have cost me the match, because then the other Tyranid swarm in there, get a bunch of model kills, get double attacks with the warriors, easily get to wrap up the kills with his Tormagants. So this was definitely my match to lose once I made that major misplay. But thankfully I was able to kind of overcome it by kiting his units here. But as you can see, the Tesla carbines are definitely a major nightmare for the forces of the Tyranid forces to deal with, especially with the swarm tactics. If you do a super heavy build with all the armor, the Living Lightning can do some damage to them, but generally not enough to allow you to get the kills on a big map like this. Using the burrowing, the Termagants to be able to burrow in is always a good idea, but then also the Thornbacks can be very powerful on this matchup as well, because you can use the charge attack to close the distance, and then they also have significant attacks to allow you to kill the Locust Heavy Destroyers. If they do get meleeed, then they have the Thorn Armor that causes damage to go back, and then they got some decent splash damage too. So Thornbacks can definitely do some real good damage on a map like this, assuming they just don't get sniped down, which is always the fear using the super heavies. Tyrannofaxes and stuff with their acid spray can be an absolute nightmare when you're playing against the Necron forces, but you're generally able to shoot them down, because that's what's so hard against the Necrons, is it's like all their units have good armor piercing, and they also have good splash damage stuff too, so they can definitely be very hard to counter, especially if you have somebody that has forces to take care of both things. That's also what makes the Tau so powerful as well, is everything has armor piercing, so they can counter everything. But with the Breachers being so powerful, you can't even close the distance with them necessarily. So hopefully that gives you some feedback here. Overall, this is a decent map. It's bigger than I would think. I think probably 10 turns is probably the optimal turns on a map like this because of the size. 8 turns felt a little bit too short. remember that the obstacles on the sides are just for show. They're not true obstacles. You can really walk right through them. So don't be positioning guys that are ranged up there thinking, oh, they're going to have to move all the way around to attack me. I was thinking I was going to be able to use them as cover to jump back and forth and then harass the units. But again, it's just a bunch of show. It's there for pure aesthetics and not real cover. The center, I guess, could be used by some factions to be able to get up there and shoot down into it. But for the most part, it's just kind of annoying. And he definitely took advantage of going to one side, and my Necrons, by pushing up trying to shift things over, he just continued to push through, and that definitely would have penalized me, like I was saying. So thanks for watching. I hope you're enjoying these videos. If you are, please give my channel a like and subscribe. Encourage me to post more content for you. Have a great day.